All right, hi, welcome to today's lesson. You should all have a packet now that has been passed out to you by the substitute. This is what is trigonometry. So trigonometry is the study of triangle measurement. So let's write that there. The study of triangle measurement. And there are three basic trigonometric ratios. There's the sine ratio, there's the cosine ratio, and then there's the tangent ratio. The sine ratio, we usually follow something called SOHCAHTOA, so I'm going to show you how that works in just a moment. The sine ratio is formulated from the leg of the opposite side to the angle to the hypotenuse. So the sine is the ratio of the leg opposite the angle to the hypotenuse, and I'll show you that in a minute. So if we're looking at sine A, and I'm going to highlight with an angle marker, sine A, we would look at the side that is opposite sine A, which would be little a. So look, I'm writing a little a right there, and it's a ratio divided by the hypotenuse, and the value or the letter for the hypotenuse is side C. So it's a ratio of A to C. To find the sine or the ratio of the opposite over hypotenuse to sine B, so B is right here. I'm going to double mark that. I look for the side that is opposite of B, which is little b. I'm going to write that here, little b, and divide that by the hypotenuse, which is C. So that's how you do the ratios. Let's do the cosine. Cosine comes from the ratio of the leg adjacent to the angle. Adjacent means next to. And you're going to compare that to the hypotenuse. So if we're looking for cosine of A, we're going to go back to this angle measure, A, and the angle that is next, the side that is next to A is little b. And then you're going to divide that by the hypotenuse, which is still C. To find the cosine of angle B, we're going to our double marker B. The side that is adjacent or next to B, big B angle, is A. So you're going to take A, and you're going to divide that by the hypotenuse, which is still C. Okay, and lastly, our third trigonometric ratio. Ratio means division problem, basically, comparing two different sides in this case. So the ratio of the leg of the leg opposite the angle to the leg adjacent. So if we're going to look at A, you're going to do the leg that is opposite, which is little a, over the leg that is adjacent, which is little b. And for angle B, the leg that is opposite is big B, over, and by the way, they have good coffee, big B, funny, over the side that is adjacent, which is little a. So those are the trig ratios. And I talked to you about how you can memorize the different ratio patterns. We use the mnemonic device, SOHCAHTOA. So it's SOHCAHTOA, SOHCAHTOA. Sine is the ratio of O, which is opposite, over hypotenuse. Cosine is the ratio of adjacent A, remember adjacent means next to, over hypotenuse. And tangent is the ratio of opposite to adjacent. Okay, let you copy that down for a minute. Oops, let's see here. Okay, so now we're going to move on and find the trigonometric ratios of the angles that they're giving us. So let's look at number 1. And we're writing them, it says, give each trigonometric ratio as a fraction in simplest form. So you are going to have to simplify these fractions if you can. So we're going to look at A, and angle A first. And remember, sine is the ratio of opposite to hypotenuse. So opposite from A is 5 over the hypotenuse, which is 13. Now there's no way I can simplify that because they're both prime numbers. Cosine of A would be adjacent over hypotenuse. So adjacent would be 12, hypotenuse is 13. 12 over 13. Tangent is opposite over adjacent, so opposite is 5 over adjacent is 12. Now, people are going to ask, how do you know that adjacent is 12 and not 13 to A? 13 is the hypotenuse. So when they're talking about adjacent, they're talking about legs. Okay. Now C. Let's look at C. So the sine of angle C is from opposite divided by hypotenuse. So opposite of C is 12 over the hypotenuse, which is 13. Still can't simplify. Cosine is adjacent. Did I say adjacent? Yeah, sorry. Sine was opposite over a hypotenuse. Cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. And that would be 5 over 12. So 5 over 12. Nope. Try again. 5 over 13. Hypotenuse is 13. So let me try that again. Cosine is opposite over adjacent over hypotenuse. Adjacent over hypotenuse. And it's 5 over 13. And then lastly, tangent is opposite over adjacent. So opposite is 12 over adjacent, which is 5. Okay, so those are your trig ratios. So it's just kind of knowing where they are on the triangle. And this is for right triangle trigonometry. Okay, sine of W, so let's look at W, is opposite over hypotenuse. But look, we do not have the hypotenuse. So we're actually going to have to solve for the hypotenuse. In order to do that, we're going to use the Pythagorean theorem. So we're going to say 9 squared plus 12 squared equals x squared, because we're not sure what that is. 9 squared is 81. 12 squared is 144. You add them together, you get 225 equals x squared. You take the square root of both sides. X equals 15. So the side is 15. All right, so once you get that, you have opposite, which is 12, over hypotenuse, which is 15. Cosine would be adjacent over hypotenuse, or 9 over 15. And we can simplify that by dividing the top and the bottom by 3. So it's 3 over 5. And tangent of W is adjacent, which is 9, over hypotenuse, which is 15. I should try that again. I'm sorry. Let me erase that. Tangent is opposite over adjacent. I just chose the wrong one. So opposite of W is 12. Adjacent is 9. And once again, they are both divisible by 3. So you're going to get 4 over 3. Okay, now let's do the X. X, we're going to do sine is opposite, which is 9, over hypotenuse, which is 15. 9 over 15 can also be simplified by dividing each top and bottom by 3 to 3 over 5. Cosine of X is adjacent over hypotenuse, so 12 over 15. And each of those can be divided by 3 again, so it's 4 over 5. And lastly, tangent of this angle is opposite over adjacent, so 9 over 12. And once again, those each can be divided by 3, so 3 over 4. Okay. I'm just going to go through this real quick. To find the last side, you say x squared plus 16 squared equals 34 squared. Subtract 16 squared from 34 squared. You're going to get x equals 900. So x equals 30. And when we do the sine of angle L, we're doing the opposite over hypotenuse. The opposite over hypotenuse is 30 over 34. Divide each by 2 and you get 15 over 17. The cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse, so you're going to do 16 over 34, which if you divide each by 2, you get 8 over 17. And then tangent of L, which would be opposite over adjacent, that would be, let's see, 30 over 16. And 30 over 16, divide by 2, so 15 over 8. Okay, sine of M. So here's angle M down here. Sine is opposite over hypotenuse. Opposite over hypotenuse would be 16 over 34. And you could divide that into 2, so that equals 8 over 17. Cosine of M is adjacent over hypotenuse, A over H. So A over H would be 30 over 34, which is 15 over 17 as well. Okay, and tangent of M would be opposite over adjacent, and opposite over adjacent in this case from angle M would be 16 over 30. And you can divide that in 2, and that's 8 over 15. All right, so this is the front page. Please flip the page. It says, find the missing side with trig ratios. So this, you're actually not going to have sides. You're going to actually have an angle and maybe a side. So now, what you're given from this angle, you're given an opposite and you're given a hypotenuse. So you might even want to write this up at the top. SOHCAHTOA. So you can kind of figure out which trig ratio, sine, cosine, or tangent you're going to use. So when we solve for x, we're going to be using this degree. So the side that's opposite of 28 is x, and I also am given a hypotenuse. So I'm going to be using sine. So sine of 28 equals x over 19. So 28 is the angle, opposite is x, divided by the hypotenuse, which is 19. Okay, so you're going to grab a calculator. And you're going to, let's see here. You're going to turn it on. You're going to go to a new document. You can pause this video if you guys need to go grab a calculator. Let's start a new document. Let's not save anything. And let's add a calculator. So what we want to do is find what x is. So we're going to use algebra. So since x is being divided by 19, you're going to have to multiply by 19 on both sides. So I'm going to have 19 times the sine of 28. These two cancel. Now I'm going to put this in my calculator. 19. Oh, can you see it? Let's see here. Move it up. 19 times. Now the sine comes from this little button right here. It says trig. So click trig and click SIN. And we're doing 28. Enter. So the answer for x, is 5.147. So 5.18 equals x. Okay. I will come back with another video momentarily.